What's up, family? And thank y'all for tuning in today. Listen, happy Good Friday to you. I woke up this morning and I said, you know what? It's kind of hard to feel good on a day like this, knowing what Jesus went through and what he experienced. But I do want to share some knowledge with you, and I also want to share some good news. So many of you do know that I lost my sister, and her birthday is actually today. So I'm managing the emotions behind the sacrifice that Jesus made for us today and what he experienced. I'm also managing emotions behind my sister and her experience. But one of the things that I'm celebrating today as I get to know more about Jesus is the qualities and characteristics that my sister displayed, not just in her final days, but just in her life. There are so many similarities here, and I just love that. That actually just brings me a lot of comfort in my heart and in my spirit. So happy heavenly birthday to my sister Alex. I absolutely love you and adore you. You know that. So again, there's good news. The good news is, guess what? The rescue started today. God gave his life. Jesus Christ gave his life to rescue us, to save ours. And that's something that we can get excited about. He's the king. But he did not come down here on this earth so that people could serve him. He came down to be of service. So I started studying a little bit this morning because I said, I want to know the timeline, like what really happened today. So I started exploring Matthew and I did some little light research, and I want to share some of that with you. So let's just take a look at what happened on Good Friday. So that morning, Judas, and we all know Judas leads the soldiers to arrest Jesus. Now, Judas was one of Jesus's disciples. The enemy knew him so well, knew him better than he knew himself. And remember, I said in another video that the enemy knows our weaknesses. He knows our limitations. Judas, unfortunately, his weakness was greed, was money. And that's what they used to get him to lead them to Jesus. So now Jesus is taken to the high priest because Judas betrays him. And he's in the courtyard, and the priest is asking him all these questions. And they think that Jesus is going to deny what he's saying. And Jesus is like, no, I am the king. I am the savior. He didn't deny any of that. And as he's being interrogated in the courtyard, Peter's there. And somebody sees Peter and said, Peter, oh, I know him. That's Jesus's right-hand man. He one of the disciples. And then Peter denies him. No, not me. Somebody else is like, oh, yeah, that's him. Absolutely. I know him. Peter denies Jesus 3 times. And the crazy thing is, Peter already knew. Like Jesus told Peter, you are going to deny me when with the crow strikes, something like that. You're going to do it 3 times. Oh, no, Jesus, not me. I would never. And you know what Jesus said? Get thee behind me, Satan. Because Jesus said, you will do this. You are not going to get in the way of my purpose, of my plan, and my rescue mission. So there it is. I kind of feel bad for Peter. I do. Low key. So now Jesus is handed over, right? So now the arrest begins. And the crazy thing here is that they set the craziest man free in exchange for Jesus. His name was Barabbas. Crazy. And they did this to please the crowd. So now they start to mock Jesus. Not only are they going to abuse him physically, but now they're attempting to abuse him spiritually and emotionally. So you know what they do? They're like, oh, you the king of Jews? Oh, let's get him a purple robe. So they put a purple robe on him. Oh, you're the king of Jews? Get him a crown. They don't get him a crown of gold, silver, precious metal. You already know. They give him a crown of thorns. So now Jesus has to carry his cross. Many of us carry a cross. Many of us have burdens. For Jesus, at this point, the cross was too heavy for him to bear. But God sends help all the time. And Simon helps Jesus carry this cross. So at about 9 a.m., so this all starts early Friday morning. So now it's about 9 a.m. They place Jesus on the cross. They nail him to the cross, his hands, his feet. You all know that. They place the crown on his head. Blood starts to flow. And now we're going to look at Mark 15, verses 25 to 26. And it says here, because most of y'all be wondering, how you know it's 9 in the morning? Because it says it right here in the Bible. It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. The written notice of his charge said the King of Kings. That's the crime that they were charging him with. So fast forward a few hours later, the environment starts to change. The energy starts to change. Darkness begins to cover the land. Now, I like to think about this as, this is just my personal opinion, this is God's way of communicating to people. Like, you're crucifying the King. This is his way of communicating to Jesus that I'm here for you. This is all a part of the plan. This too shall pass. It is passing. It's coming to an end. And that's the comfort that God is giving to Jesus at this time. That's just my opinion. That's not in the Bible, okay? And it's 2:52. It's almost 3 o'clock. So around 3 p.m., if you go to Mark 15, verse 34, Jesus, he's at the end of his life now. He looks up and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And when he says this, it stirs up something in the spirit of the people who are sitting next to him, standing below him, And they say, you know what? We got to get him something to drink. Like he's about to go. And they hand him some white vinegar on a sponge. So they put it on a sponge and they use a stick because obviously he's crucified up on the cross. And they give it to Jesus. And at this moment, Jesus takes his last breath. At 6 p.m., Jesus' body is now laid in the tomb. So I want to read one final thing before I wrap up. And this is Matthew 27, verse 50. Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. He totally surrendered himself. Then behold, the veil of the temple was torn into two from top to bottom. And the earth quaked, and the rocks were split, and the graves were open. And many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So when the centurion and those who saw him, who were guarding Jesus, saw the earthquake and the things that have happened, they feared greatly. They were shook. And this is what they said. Truly, this was the Son of God. So that's what Jesus Christ experienced today. What I want you all to know is we are coming up on Resurrection Sunday. Get into Matthew. Read and get to learn a little bit more about what these next few days were really like. Surrender a part of yourself to God. Jesus gave his spirit up. There's parts of us that we should be giving to God. And I want you to know that no matter who you are and no matter what it is that you've done, God came down to save you. He offered himself as a sacrifice. All we have to do is accept God as Lord and Savior of our life and try every single day to be more and more like him. We're not going to be perfect. He knows that. But God knows our heart. That's what he wants. He wants our heart. So give it to him today. So I appreciate y'all listening again. Happy Good Friday and enjoy the rest of your weekend.